Ever wonder why some people never quit? They rise at the exact same hour, execute the exact same routine, and nothing ever breaks their rhythm. Not sickness, not travel, not chaos. While everyone around them crumbles by week 3, these individuals keep marching forward. While the masses manufacture excuses, they simply appear and deliver. And you know what people whisper about them? That's not human. That level of consistency is terrifying. There exists an ancient framework developed by Zen monks in medieval Japan that engineered precisely this type of relentless discipline. They named it Gyoji, the practice that sustains itself. Once you grasp its mechanics, breaking commitments becomes biologically impossible. But here's the warning. This framework isn't designed for the casual observer. It demands you execute a part of your identity you've never acknowledged exists. Before we dive into the system, I need you to subscribe to Purpose Presence Hub. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me which habit you're determined to forge in your life. This feedback matters deeply and proves you're serious about transformation. Let's begin. The individual I'm about to describe was a software engineer named Marcus. Brilliant mind, impressive career trajectory, but plagued by one fatal flaw. He couldn't sustain any practice beyond 14 days. Gym membership? Abandoned after 8 weeks. Meditation? 7 days maximum. Reading? He'd purchase books, consume 3 pages, then bury them in his desk drawer. The cycle repeated endlessly. Monday arrived with explosive motivation. Wednesday brought the first mental bargaining. Friday witnessed complete capitulation. Sunday delivered promises about fresh starts next week. Marcus attempted everything: tracking applications, reward systems, accountability partnerships. Nothing penetrated because he was battling something invisible, the fundamental wiring of his neural architecture. Until he uncovered why Zen monks maintain meditation practices for 8 centuries without missing a single session. And no, it's not willpower. It's something far more primal and far more disturbing. In Zen monasteries, there exists a principle that appears deceptively simple, yet revolutionizes everything. Gyoji, direct translation, means continuous practice without interruption. Understand the weight of those words? Since the year 12, every single morning at precisely 3:30, a bell resonates through 80A Temple. And since the year 12, every single morning, the monks awaken. Not 3:25, not 3:35, exactly 3:30. You want to know what never occurs in that temple? No monk remains in bed, negotiating whether today they'll skip practice. The question doesn't exist in their consciousness. Why? Because they've internalized something you haven't yet. Your brain files every commitment into 2 categories: reversible or irreversible. Reversible commitments transform into mental negotiations. Irreversible commitments simply execute. When a monk declares his vows before the entire monastic community, he's not making a pledge. He's reconstructing his identity. He's not promising to attempt meditation. He's declaring himself a meditator. The community bears witness. The identity shifts. The negotiation dissolves. A neuroscientist from Harvard, who's dedicated 15 years to studying behavioral patterns, discovered something groundbreaking. When you make a behavior public, your primitive brain interprets failure as a threat to survival. Our ancestors who suffered status loss in the tribe faced death. Your brain still operates on that ancient programming. Marcus implemented this exact strategy. He abandoned private promises and initiated public declarations. He wrote on paper, "I am someone who meditates 20 minutes daily at 5 a.m. for 90 consecutive days." He signed it. He broadcast it across social platforms. He informed everyone. His partner said, "You're being unnecessarily dramatic." His colleague said, "Man, you're forcing this too hard." Perfect. Every person who knew him became psychological fuel. Every morning, he felt the urge to surrender. He visualized facing everyone and admitting he was just another individual who couldn't execute his commitments. Day 3 delivered the first genuine trial. The alarm screamed at 5 a.m. Instantly, his mind launched its predictable routine. You're destroyed. This is damaging. One day creates zero difference. But something fundamental had transformed. The thought of posting online that he'd collapsed after 3 days was unbearable. The public declaration had made quitting more agonizing than continuing. Even with massive social pressure, Marcus still waged internal warfare every single morning. His biology didn't care about his reputation. It craved sleep when exhausted. That's when he discovered the monk's second principle: non-negotiable timing. Every day, you drain mental energy on the identical worthless question: when do I do this? Now or after breakfast? Morning or evening? This decision consumes glucose in your brain that should fuel actual practice. You're wasting energy deciding when to drive instead of actually driving. Marcus selected 5 a.m., not because he was naturally a morning person who enjoyed sunrise. He chose 5 a.m. because the world was unconscious. No notifications, no emails, no distractions, no justifications. The timing wasn't about optimization. It was about elimination. Eliminating every conceivable reason to postpone. The first week was brutal. His body resisted every morning. That's expected. Your body is machinery that operates on patterns, and you're forcing it to construct a new pattern. It fights back. Week 2 brought change. He started waking 2 minutes before his alarm. His body had begun preparing for what now awaited it. On day 14, the alarm sounded and his feet contacted the floor before his conscious mind even activated. No thought, no decision, just motion. Here's what most people fail to understand about fixed timing. It's not about discovering the perfect schedule. It's about removing time as a variable. When the schedule is locked, your brain can't argue with a constant. But Marcus discovered a new obstacle. His schedule was fixed, but he kept altering what he did during that window. Some mornings, meditation felt appropriate. Other days, he read. Sometimes a few push-ups. His brain had identified a new negotiation point. Instead of arguing about when, it started arguing about what. And this is where the teaching on forms becomes controversial, because it requires you to execute exactly the identical thing every single day until your mind completely surrenders. You believe variety maintains interest, but variety is actually where consistency dies. Every time you modify what you're doing, your brain must make micro-decisions. Every minor decision is a fracture where your old patterns leak back in. Marcus completely locked everything down. 20 push-ups, 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of reading. Same sequence, same timer, same execution. His personal Ango period. 90 days of identical practice. His friends called him robotic. His partner said he was becoming irritating. They didn't comprehend that irritating was precisely the objective. Week 3, his mind declared war. Every morning, it screamed for variety. This is idiotic. You're not a machine. Week 4, something broke. Not his discipline, but his resistance. The voice of negotiation grew quieter. By week 6, he was halfway through his push-ups before he even realized he'd begun. The practice was executing itself. This is what people don't grasp about consistency. It's not about willpower lasting eternally. It's about repetition until willpower is no longer required. Your body learns the sequence like a dancer learns choreography. When you repeat an action in the same context for approximately 66 days, the basal ganglia of the brain assume control. The behavior becomes automatic. Day 35, Marcus caught influenza. Day 40, he was traveling for work. This is where the old pattern activates. Sick day equals rest day. Travel equals exception. This is where everyone surrenders, because perfect practice requires perfect conditions, and perfect conditions don't exist. But the ancient teaching understood something about gaps that changes everything. Practice must continue without even a moment of gap, because in that gap, all your old patterns return. What rescued Marcus when everything collapsed was understanding that practice doesn't require perfection. It requires continuity. The all-or-nothing lie has murdered more consistency than laziness ever could. You tell yourself, if I can't execute the full 20 minutes, why do anything? This thinking creates gaps, and gaps are where your old self crawls back in. A river never stops flowing. During a drought, it may be a trickle, but it never stops. The moment it stops, it's no longer a river. It's a memory of where the water used to be. Your practice is the same. The moment you create a gap, you're no longer practicing. You're someone who used to practice. Travel day arrived on day 40. Airport at 4 a.m. Meetings all day. No gym at the hotel. Marcus did push-ups in the airport bathroom. People looked at him like he'd lost his mind. Perfect. He meditated in the Uber. He read on the plane. Nothing was perfect. Everything maintained momentum. This is Joji. Practice continuing itself. That's when people started to notice. Co-workers said he seemed different. Friends said he was becoming obsessive. Someone actually said his discipline wasn't healthy. When you hear these words, you know you're on the right track. Normal people get normal results. You're not trying to be normal. You're trying to be unbreakable. But here's what no one prepares you for. The unexpected obstacles you never saw coming. Your child gets sick. Your car breaks down. Your boss keeps you late. These are consistency killers because you haven't pre-decided how to handle them. Zen monasteries have operated for centuries without missing a single day of practice. Earthquakes, wars, famines, the practice continues. How? They don't make decisions when obstacles arise. The answer already exists. When the meditation hall floods, they go to the dining hall. The bell rings. The response is automatic. Marcus wrote down every obstacle that had ever broken his consistency and pre-solved each one. Rain, push-ups in the garage. Guests staying home, silent workout in the bathroom. Each scenario had its predetermined response. When X happens, I do Y. No thinking, no negotiating, just execution. The power of this isn't just maintaining the sequence. It's that you stop wasting mental energy on decisions. Your brain knows that no matter what happens tomorrow, the practice continues. This certainty changes your entire nervous system. Day 70. Marcus's practice had become completely automatic. His body simply moved through the sequence like a programmed machine. On day 90, he completed his personal Ango. 3 months of uninterrupted practice. But something deeper had happened. He was no longer the same person. Friends literally told him, "Your consistency is scary." His response was perfect. Great. Because when your discipline makes others uncomfortable, you're finally operating at the right level. Your existence proves that everything they say is impossible is actually just uncomfortable. That's why they'll call you obsessive. That's why they'll say you need balance. But you're not doing it for them. You're doing it because you've discovered the secret. Consistency isn't about doing something every day. It's about becoming someone who can't do it any other way. When you implement the Gyoji system, public declaration, fixed schedule, seamless practice method, and pre-resolved answers, you're not just creating habits. You're reshaping your identity. You stop being someone who tries and become someone who simply is. And when that happens, people will look at you and think, how does he do that? And the answer will be simple. He doesn't. He is. The question remains, are you ready for this level of transformation? Because it's not about discipline. It's about death and rebirth. the death of your inconsistent self, the birth of your unbreakable self. The Gyoji system won't make you a better person. It'll make you a different person. If this video changed your perspective, subscribe to Purpose Presence Hub and activate the bell. Tell me in the comments what your public declaration will be. What habit will you implement using the Gyoji system? Remember, the consistency that scares others is the only consistency worth having. Thank you from Purpose Presence Hub. See you in the next video.